that come in. You get that email from the client. You need to have someone that you can talk to and be very, very honest with. If it's a co-founder, if it's a partner in life, or if it's, you know, a mentor, if it's a parent, if it's a sibling, like, you need to have someone that basically knows everything that's going on and can help you. It's someone that even if like the worst thing happens, you're not afraid to call them, and they're not going to be mad. They're not going to reject you. They're just going to listen, and they're going to find ways to help you. You need someone like that. That's absolutely mandatory. I think for me, that is probably the most important thing that a founder can do, is just really have an honest relationship with as many people as possible that you can be fully transparent with.
Yeah.
So yeah, that would be my recommendation.
Yeah. Other one that I would say is get some sleep.
I agree.
It's like just get sleep. Yeah. And because you start missing out on sleep, like everything, a lot of things go down from there.
Yeah.
So I think sleep is one important thing.
I agree.
Other people would add like eating healthy and all this other stuff. I would agree as well. Though I would put sleep in like number one, because sleep is usually the first thing that goes out the window in times of stress, times of difficulty. And for me, before, that was like what I would always do. Like just put more hours. That's how you solve a problem. Put more hours. Get worse. So I think just focus on your sleep, and everything gets, I would say, peaceful.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying everything will be all right, but things get less cloudy and more clear.
I agree.
Along with, yes, given that you have a co-founder or somebody that you can be honest with, not just somebody, and be like a team, be honest with your team. Because if you don't have like somebody you're talking to, then it feels like it's just you against the world. That's like terrible. Excuse me. That's like really hard.
Yeah. Almost impossible.
Yeah. So, but if you can share things with your team and you're honest, then like, you know, like you share the things usually you share things that are not going well, then you kind of like share the burden, spread the burden. It's not so heavy to bear, and it becomes less stressful, even though the problem's not even solved. But it allows your mind to think clear, because you're kind of sharing the burden.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
So find a partner or a mentor or somebody, and get some sleep.
Get some sleep.
Okay.
That'll help you.
Cool. Do we have other topics in mind? We don't at this time. So if you have any topics in mind or any questions, we would love to hear from you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because
how do they contact us?
They contact us. Lenny's pointing. We should point like that.
Lenny's standing behind the camera.
Yeah, hi Lenny.
Say hi to Lenny.
Let's point downwards, Dave.
Down.
I don't know what it is
on this table.
But write in the comments.
We have to say the YouTube thing. Like and comment below.
Subscribe,
follow,
like
and comment below.
Subscribe. What else? Follow, like, share a lot.
Share.
And then comments. Comment him. My mom and my dad. Definitely number one.
Yep. Liker and commenter.
But yeah, it's important to keep your mental health as well. That's mom and dad.
Yeah, that's true. All right.
That's
a wrap.
Bye-bye.
See you later.
Three, two, one, and welcome to the Dave and Albert Show. All right, so here we have another myth.
Myth number 3.
Dun, 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 dun.
Software development has a fixed cost and a strict time frame or strict timeline.
Oh. So do we have a fixed cost or so this is interesting because we don't usually operate with a fixed cost and a fixed timeline.
Yeah.
But there's a reason for that.
Right. A lot of times when you're making a budget as a company, you would come out with some number or figure of like how much you're willing to spend or how much is approved for you to spend this year on this effort or this initiative.
Right,
so
right.
you would call Simf and talk to either me or G, the sales team, and you would say, hey, Dave, I want to develop this. And then we would say, okay, great. We can estimate something. And then after seeing the numbers, you'll be like, oh, but Dave, my budget is only this much money.
Yeah, so I think a software development project can have a fixed cost.
Yeah,
I think so. You can have a fixed cost, but then your features also are like it'll be constrained.
Yeah, exactly.
To that, right?
Exactly.
I think the main issue here is that when you're creating something new, your features are usually unthought of at the moment.
Yes.
Right. So usually we have clients that come in and say like, hey, I want an app just like Uber. And I'm like, sure. It's like, what's your budget? And they're like, can we do it with like
few $1,000s,
maybe like $20,000, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So $1 million pesos.
Wow. Yeah, there's Uber. And so like $20,000, can you do it that? So like, oh sure. I mean like Uber like invested like $1 billion. But we can try what you can do with $20,000.
Yeah.
All right. So we can do the pickup functionality. We can have some driver app maybe, and then that's it. Okay. But how about like the Uber has like like compliment, tipping, like that
Rating.
won't fit, right?
No.
Because it's a lot, but we don't think about it in the beginning.
Yeah.
But I think what's important to realize is that Uber, when they started, didn't have that as well.
Yeah.
Right? Uber just started with a simple functionality. And I think that's important to realize.
I agree.
That when you begin small because your budget is constrained. So your feature should also be constrained.
Correct.
And if you want to be at par with the industry, then that would the cost would also translate a lot.
Yeah. I like to think of it as somewhat of a triangle, right? So you have your features, you have your budget, and then you have your time. Now you can't have all of them fixed, right? That would be ideal, but it's just not the reality. So if you come to us and you say, well, my budget is fixed, Dave, like this is the budget that I have. What we can say is that, okay, over this period of time, we can probably implement this feature set, like Albert just gave the example of. Now, if you come and you say, well, look, my budget will grow and it will adapt, then we can likewise say, okay, well, we can probably develop more features over that period of time. Likewise, if you say, well, my budget is twice as much as the original estimate, then we can spend less time and we can develop more features. They all just they do influence one another.
Yeah. But then I think there are some software that are fixed cost. And these software, usually the software has already been done, right?
Yeah.
I think the only thing that's really fixed cost and you can predict exactly is the software development that no longer need to be developed. They're already done, they're off the shelf, and you don't need to customize them. They just work out of the box.
And these days we call it like software as a service, if it's a web-based or a mobile app
or
that
off
you're
the
using,
shelf.
or like off-the-shelf
software.
like things that you buy, like Microsoft Word or Office.
But the downside of this is that you can customize them.
Right. If you write the Microsoft team and you're like, hey, I want this new feature for Word, I want to make all of the Word look like crazy art. They might actually say, okay, we can do that, but it will be in next year's release. Now, that may not be soon enough for you, so that's where you would think about custom software development.
Right. We went around with this, but basically, when you're creating something new, it's very challenging to have like a fixed cost and fixed timeline. And I think what people should be focusing on is actually developing something that you will eventually use and be happy about. And focusing on that, I think is a much better proposition.
I would agree. And I would add one last piece of advice. If you're thinking about starting a software company where software or technology is a core component of your business, you should realize that you don't build it once and then walk away.
Yeah.
You're going to have to continue to maintain and improve the software over time. Now, for proof of this, just look at the App Store or the Google Play Store. You're constantly seeing updates from some of the biggest software developers like Facebook, Uber, Grab, all the likes. They usually release on a pretty frequent schedule, maybe once a week, or as needed if they have urgent bugs. It's never really done. And you're going to have bugs is the second most important thing that you have to realize if you're developing software that will be a core component of your business. Facebook has them, Google has them, Apple
Bugs
has
are
them,
like errors.
Microsoft have them.
Yeah.
It's just the reality of software development.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. Questions below.
This is other third question. P is equals to MP. For those computer science geeks out there, this is actually a problem that's very famous, and we don't have the answer.
I think there's a bounty right now. These are
Yeah.
like the millennium problems, right? The six or seven, I can't remember.
Yeah,
but there's $1 million bounty.
If you solve this, you get $1 million.
So let's solve it.
Yeah, just stay tuned on our next episode.
We'll do the solution.
Or $1 million richer. All right. So number
Do you
4.
want to touch on that? I mean, do you want to talk about it or?
No, just look it up on Google, guys. It's very geeky. So
Yeah, very very deep.
So how will machine learning change the future of businesses?
That's a great question.
It's actually a deep question if you want to really go deep into that, because
Yeah.
it will basically the quick answer would be, how will it change? It will change businesses.
Oh yeah.
For example, one, it will change the way labor works, right? Because right now, in order for businesses to operate, we rely a lot on processes in humans, right? But with the advent of AI, you have more and more computers being able to do what humans could only do before. So now you're getting labor and labor getting replaced. So when you could technically run a business without any labor.
Yeah.
Right. Completely run a business without having any humans. And so if you take it to the extreme, you'd have like a world where all the businesses are run by computers. So who's getting salaries? How do we get salaries if we're not doing that work? So I think the question is, how will machine learning change the future of businesses? I think it will change, like how machine learning will change the future of society.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a much bigger question.
That's a much bigger question.
Yeah.
But if we're just gonna focus on like how can AI help your business?
Right, or like how can machine learning and AI help your business in the next 6 months or 18 months?
Yeah. So let's talk about like smart assistants, right? Like humans are prone to error or make mistakes.
Yeah.
Having AI in there can become an assistant to your team, for example.
Yeah.
And to make better decisions.
Yeah.
To have advice from the AI on what to do, and then they can either choose to follow that or treat it as an input and feedback.
Yeah.
So
I think another thing is just really making data-driven decisions. This is an area where machine learning.
What's data-driven decision making?
So meaning like you're looking at the data of your business and how it operates. And so different businesses would have different types of data. Maybe a good example is manufacturing. And you want to understand like why are we having these defects in our manufacturing process and what's breaking down.
Maybe another way to treat it is like, what's the opposite of data-driven decision making?
Yeah, I mean, I think the opposite might be, well, I'll be very careful with my words here, but instinctual or just making decisions based on like what you as one person come up with and you think.
So
your own
more like
perspective.
feeling-based decision making. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like this, maybe this is what you do.
Yes.
The data says otherwise, but let's not look at that. I know what I'm doing.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Like, well, this has always worked for me. This is what I've always done, and this has worked.
Yeah. So data-driven decision making would be, Are you saying it's better? Is it what? What's this?
I think yes. I think it would be better. Now, it's not to say that the data wouldn't align with sometimes our instincts or our feelings of what might be the right thing, but it would support those decisions. So, for example, like let's look at the doctors. They've seen maybe thousands or hundreds of thousands of scans throughout their medical career. They have a good idea of what things are. Now, machine learning could basically make their decision making better because it could easily access a million scans and analyze whether this current scan that they're trying to make a decision on needs further analysis or not.
Right.
So
Makes sense.
it's about empowering those types of decisions. Now, it's
Cool.
not to say that they're wrong or their feelings are wrong or their instinct is wrong, but it can help them make better decisions.
So this is interesting because we're talking about how AI can help us make better decisions, and but there's a lot of fear happening right now about like AI replacing us completely.
Yeah.
Right. I think I like this better where we're integrating with AI, using AI,
Yeah.
getting AI to help us make better decisions. So it's like a team up between AI and humans, and not just like an AI versus humans.
Yeah. And I think we need to think about the short term, but also be mindful of the long term. You know, what does the future look like when AI will be in a place where it can make better decisions for a lot of things?
Yeah.
Like you mentioned with the businesses, there might be a lot of room for AI. Now, in the short term, it might be that a lot of the call center agent functions, you know, let's bring it home to the Philippines or Cebu in particular, a lot of the call center agent functionality may be able to be handled by algorithms or by artificial intelligence, just handling the routine things. You know, you see this already, right? You call in and you want to know how much is your outstanding balance on your phone line. Well, a computer can tell you that really easily. You actually don't need to go through a human to find
Right.
that information.
Right.
And
So basically, it's
that's
like
automated.
moving the tedious, repetitive work to the AI,
Right.
and going with a higher level, more intellectually stimulating conversations to
Yeah.
the humans.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. So, I think that those are all the questions about machine learning and AI. If you guys have any questions about anything, tech, business, life in general, we're okay. Feel free to comment them, and we'll be happy to talk about them next time.
Yep.
All right. Thank you so much.
Bye, guys.
Bye bye.
Three, two, one, and welcome to the Dave and Albert Show. I think it's really hard to for people to express something abstract, right?
Yeah. So I think the software development project is for fixed cost. I think so. Oh, all right. Three, two, one,
Hey,
and
2, 1, and welcome
welcome to
to
the
the
Dave
Dave
and
and
Albert
Albert
Show.
Show.
Okay, that's
uh,
funny. It won't work on remote and online.
it's hard. It's like trying to sing a song in unison. It's hard.
Yeah, I actually
Well,
have to fix my. Give me 1 minute. Like I have to fix my microphone. It's not coming out on my earphones. It's coming out of my.
huh?
Yeah.
Your
There,
speaker,
there
yeah.
you go. Now I just fixed
Are you
that.
better?
Okay, we're
Wonderful.
good. We're
That
good.
wasn't a minute. Awesome. Whoa. Hey, how are you?
I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm
Yeah.
here at
Yeah.
home. I'm with a
Oh,
I'm with a
nice.
vacuum cleaner,
You
right?
in the vacuum? Yeah. Do you have
Yeah.
a promotion? Is that a sponsor of the show
No,
or?
no. We
No?
converted this room to be like the office. It used to be like just like a spare room. So yeah, I
Yeah.
got I got the vacuum cleaner room. So
you know.
Well, congrats. I'm at home. I don't really have an office, but I'm in like one part of the house where the kids are not, and so that's kind of where I try to
But
work when I
I
do.
see some artwork behind you, like right
Yeah,
there.
dude. This during the morning. This is school. So this is some of the art of the kids that they get to hang up. Yeah. So during this time right now, it's nap time. This is my most productive time of the day.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. All
Yeah.
right,
As
let's get
long
this.
as everyone lies down at the same time. That's a challenge. But yeah. Anyway. So
Cool.
we've
Let's get
been at
this
home.
started.
Yeah.
Sure.
We've
So
been at home for what almost 2.5 months now, right? Like
yeah,
Sims closed down around the 15th of March.
we closed
Um,
our office and we've gone full remote.
yes, correct. And so, let's be very honest. We're a very fortunate company that what we do is very is very digital and technology based. So being at home is fine. Yeah, so there's a comment, holy crap, Dave, your hair did not grow at all. Actually, I live with my barber, and so I have gotten a haircut since I've been at home because, yeah, we can do that in my garage, and that's what we did. So I
Wow.
actually need another one. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
don't live with my official barber, but my unofficial barber, also known as my wife,
Yes.
so she took over. So
Should give a little trim. Yeah.
yeah, she was quite satisfied with her work. Actually, she was like, "Oh, I actually have potential. Like, I like this." I was like, "Wow, you have a fallback career in case things go
Yeah,
down."
exactly.
Like,
Exactly. That's awesome. That's awesome.
hi,
Hi.
hi, Trixie.
Hi,
Hi,
Trixie.
everybody watching.
Hi, Diego. I saw Diego comment. Good to see everyone watching. Hi, guys. Okay, so yeah, so we were fortunate to be able to close the office and go to a remote work model. Now that was a shift for us. We have done a little bit of remote working, like with a few people in select instances, but honestly, even as a technology company, we still love working together in one office space.
Definitely.
We're just, honestly, we're just more productive there. Now, I say all that just to say there are other businesses who are not nearly as fortunate as we are. That in the sense we can still continue to work, we can still continue to get things done, we can still generate revenue, we can send invoices, we can get paid, we can keep the lights on, right? Like we're very, very fortunate. And that is not the case for, I would even say, the majority of businesses who are going through this pandemic around the world.
Yeah.
So,
So I want to introduce like the way a framework, or at least like the way I kind of view how COVID changed things for businesses. Basically, there's a lot of changes in the world right now because of COVID, and they affect businesses. I think in four major ways. So I'm gonna talk about these four sort of like categories that businesses
yeah.
have been affected with. So the first one is, I would say, demand, right? Demand.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
demand has been affected. So it could be
Yeah.
that you used to provide something and now demand for it has gone down or disappeared. I would say,
Right.
for example, would be negatively, I would say massage and
Hmm.
spas, right? Demand
Yeah.
for that has just disappeared, right? Like
Yeah.
there's no more demand for massage and spas, or very, very little. In hotels, even like the boutique
Yeah.
ones, that just has, because human contact, whoops, and human contact has sort of like been
Hmm.
like, is impractical nowadays, is actually very
Hmm.
much frowned upon. So that has demand has just disappeared. On the other hand, demand for alcohol, demand for face masks have gone through the roof, right? Like
Yes.
those
Yes.
have gone through the roof. So, there are businesses that if you are your demand has been affected, both maybe it could be upwards where it has spiked demand, or second, demand has gone down, right? So that's
Hmm.
one way.
Hmm.
First is demand. The second one I say is channels, right? So channels. When I say channels, I talk about two things. First one is marketing channels, right? Or how you tell the customers about you. For example, if you used to
Hmm.
have if you do marketing via billboards, and that's like your marketing channel,
Right.
Nobody's out and about right now. All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
If you do your
No one's
your
seeing your billboards.
yeah, if you're doing your marketing channel through the malls, through outside spaces, through salespeople, that has been severely affected. So that's the
Yep.
first channel, marketing channel. The next channel is the delivery channel, right? So
Hmm.
if you have a boutique store or a store in the
Yeah.
mall or a traditional,
Restaurant, coffee shop.
yeah, like that kind, like the way you fulfill or deliver your goods and services is physical or like in a physical
Hmm.
presence, that could have been greatly affected, right? However, if your
Yep.
delivery channel is has always been, for example, like Grab Food, right? Food
Hmm.
Panda,
Hmm.
Lala Move, like
Yeah.
your delivery channels are I would
Uber
say,
Eats, Grubhub.
yeah, they're not like physically like stuck in a mall or something. Then in the upside, you have all the upside because of the change of behavior of people. So
Right.
that's
Right.
demand and channel. So I'm gonna go to the third, and the third one is operations, right? So
Hmm.
operations, like if you rely on people being physically present, for example, like you're a factory,
Hmm.
then like no more, like
Yep.
that
Yep.
operations has been severely affected. So
Hmm.
operations, your ability to deliver, to create your product, to deliver your service, even if demand is there, even if your marketing channel is there, even if your delivery channel is even there, but if your operations is dependent on people being physically present and together in a certain place, that could have been severely affected, right?
Yep. Yep.
And the last one, I would say, is supply, your supply chain, right? So
Yeah. Exactly.
if you can have the demand, you can have the operations, you can have the channels, but if you can no longer source the products and your raw materials or the your even for us, like your talent, for example, if your supply chain has been broken and disrupted, like that could affect you, right? That has affected you. So
Exactly.
those are the ways, sort of like the four categories that I think businesses are. I mean, they're affected in other ways than that, but I would put them,
Of course.
categorize them into these four major things. So, demand,
Of course.
channels, operations, and supply. And so when I talk about business, or when we look at businesses in the time of COVID, we first try to identify like how we can solve problems. Is we try to identify first like what has been affected and what categories have been affected, and what are the changes
Hmm.
necessary to respond to the in order to adjust the certain category, and then just
Yeah.
straightforward, right? For example, if you're a restaurant, and you've been affected, your marketing channel, you're in a mall, in a restaurant in a mall, your marketing channel and your fulfillment channel has been affected. The demand for
Hmm.
food has not gone down.
It's true. Everyone's still hungry.
Yeah, the demand for food is still there. So what you need to do is you just need to change your marketing and delivery channel, right? So what have
Yeah.
some restaurants have been doing, right? They've been what do you call this? They've been marketing online in Facebook
Hmm.
groups, in Viber, whatnot, right?
Yeah.
And then they've been taking orders online, and then they've been delivering the food.
Yeah.
I even
Exactly.
know of one steak place here in Cebu. They deliver. There's a steak restaurant, but instead of delivering steaks, because you need steak hot, right, and straight off
Right.
the pan, right? So instead of delivering the steak cooked, they deliver the steak raw and with instructions on
Yeah.
how to cook it. So
Yeah.
that has even simplified their operations, right?
Yeah. Exactly. No need to cook anymore.
No,
Just it
no need
it
to cook. They
becomes
just
meal
ship it.
delivery.
Yeah, they just package it, and then they package it, and then
Yeah.
they deliver it. So the change there
Yeah.
is the marketing channel and the delivery, the fulfillment channel, and some change in operations for
True.
wrapping and
The way that
packaging.
they operate.
Yeah,
Hmm.
but then their supply, they just have to figure out the supply, and looks like
Exactly.
that hasn't been affected that much. So that's
Yeah.
kind of like the way I think about those things.
Yeah. No, I like it. I think it's a good framework. I might argue that it's somewhat the demand for a massage has not gone away, but the availability of fulfilling the demand has
Yeah,
become, more challenging, right? Like even haircuts, right? Everyone still wants to get their hair cut, but you're just not able to do it. So you have to be creative. You have to find someone who's in your house who you might trust with your hairstyle. You may have to not do Zoom meetings for the next week, or figure out like a wig type of add-on if it goes badly. But yeah, I think it's an interesting time to just see, how we have adapted, right? How has the world, and especially businesses around the world, changed the way that they do things? I like the steak place example, because definitely restaurants are in that category of one of the most, say, affected, yet they still have such a demand for their service, right? Like, people are still hungry, people want to eat. It's not necessarily the social thing that it once was, but it's more of just, I want to have good food. I'm at home, but I still want to have, a nice steak. I want to have a nice cup of coffee for me. I want to have the things that, say, I had before.
Yeah, definitely. We still
Yeah.
celebrate birthdays, right?
It's true. It's true. We've had three in my house since we've been quarantined.
Yeah. So we celebrated my brother George's birthday yesterday, and this is funny because I mean this is not about business, but this is how like behavior has changed crazy overnight, right? Like so
Yeah.
we got this cake. We picked it up. We didn't have it delivered. We had this cake picked up. We picked it up ourselves,
Nice.
and then we then sing the happy birthday song, and then we present him the cake, and then out of instinct, he blows on the cake.
No.
And then all of us were like, "What? No way!" Like it's like, ah. Now we know he's safe, right? We know he's okay.
Right. Right.
But
Yeah.
like just a thought of it, like,
That's
oh
so
my
funny. Yeah.
gosh, like
Yeah.
suddenly,
Where's your mask?
yeah. So
Yeah.
it's crazy how the change has come throughout the entire world so quickly,
It's true.
and we
It's
need
true.
to businesses in order to fulfill the behavior or the demands of customers have to adjust and work around these change in behaviors. Like shaking
Yeah.
hands will probably never be there again. So as
Yeah.
salespeople, you can no longer have that firm handshake to close a deal, right? You have to
Right.
figure out another symbolic thing and to do, and you have to retrain your instincts, and you can't even do a high five. Like, what is that? Like,
Yeah. It's just virtual now. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, you
Yeah.
need to
It's true.
retrain our instincts, and even as simple as shaking hands, even on like the way people want to meet. They don't want to meet so close anymore and keep their distance and so on.
I
All right, let's go
agree.
to
I
the
mean, even
question.
so, today, one quick thing, but yeah, my dad's birthday is today, so I had to figure out how do I get him a cake. So I actually used Grubhub in the U.S. And ordered him a pie that was delivered yesterday. So it got there a little early, but it was technically his birthday here. So I figured, hey, you can start eating cake already. But it's changed the way that we do things. It's changed the way that we think about things. So let's move on.
Cool. All right. So the first question here that we have is what can businesses do to profitably serve their customers as this shift is happening?
Yeah, that's a very good question. It's a very broad question, right? So I'll
Yeah.
try to take it from a very, like, say, top level approach. Now, I think, as we all know with business, you have to figure out what works for your individual business. So again, this is, say, general top level advice. My biggest advice right now would be to find out where are your customers. You cannot physically interact with them anymore. So the main shift that I see as a business owner you have to pay attention to is, where are your customers?
Hmm.
And you have to find them where they're at, and then you have to redraw, say, your supply chain to be able to get to them, or, as you mentioned, like, the channel. So if your customers are all on Facebook, then that's where you should be now. You may be like, well, Dave, I'm a restaurant, that doesn't make sense, I can't get on Facebook. Well, you can. You have a page, and it might mean that rather than spending most of your time back of the house preparing food, watching over your chefs, things like that, you're actually going to spend most of your time on the screen, and you're going to be interacting with customers. You're going to be figuring out how to do digital advertising as opposed to, say, more traditional media. Hey, look, people might still be listening to the radio, that might still be working, but I don't think newspapers are getting distributed as they were before. I especially don't think billboards are as effective as they were, but definitely, like, TV screens, any type of devices, you're going to have to find where your customers are. So what can you do to profitably serve your customers as the shift is happening? Is stay as close as possible to your customers and continue to adapt and find new ways to get them what they want. So that would be my general advice. What's your
Yeah.
take on this?
My take on this is I think I like to take a step back and sort of more of like, let's talk about the facts first, like the cold, hard facts. Okay. We went to bed one night and we have awakened the next morning to a whole new, different, changed world. It's not the same world anymore,
Yeah.
right? It's like
Yeah.
all the pieces on the chessboard were there, and then a kid went and then wiped it all away, and it's basically it looks very, very different, right? Established norms are suddenly like gone. New norms
Yeah.
very much established. I mean, just blowing on a cake, for example, that has changed. Shaking hands,
Yeah.
like as simple as those things, those have changed very quickly, right?
Yeah.
And so many countless different things. So to think, the first thing that we have to realize is that the world has changed, period, right? And
Hmm. Hmm.
and that means that our business that used to work very well on the previous world, which is old, it's gone.
Hmm.
That's it. It's
Yeah.
gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
It may not work in the new world. So we have to quickly adjust, right?
I
We have
agree.
to adjust or die. Like that's what will happen, right? So how do we adjust? So I think what you mentioned, Dave, was very, very good. I would sum it up with the word like empathize, right? We need
Hmm.
to
Hmm.
empathize with
Yeah.
your customer, right? We can't have the
Yeah.
the I'm a business, I'm a restaurant, this is what I do, this is my
Yeah.
specialty. That's like your prestige in the old world, and that's
Right.
great. But this is a whole new different world. And if you want to stick to that,
Yeah.
you're either gonna learn very quickly that they're not gonna adjust to you. And
Yeah.
so you have to empathize with your customers. So you have to reach out to them, find out what their challenges are. So if their challenges are, one, they're hungry, good, you can fulfill that. Second,
Yeah.
they can't get out of the house. Okay. So who will adjust, right? Who's gonna adjust?
Right.
Is it them or is it gonna be you? And it's up to you to make that decision whether you want to adjust and change your business model of delivery and to fulfill that and still be in the business or still have a business, or if you want to just close
Exactly.
it down, which is still an option,
Yeah.
right? You just
Yeah.
have to
Exactly.
be, yeah, I mean, you can do that. Like, I don't want to serve people at their homes. I want to, just still have my building. So you have to figure out, all right, maybe you can cook the food and then you partner with another business that wants to handle the logistics and delivery. Like, that's
Hmm.
a possibility.
Exactly.
But whatever it is,
Exactly.
your customer, either you change your customer from the end consumer and adjust to
Yeah.
them, or you find a new customer. And it's up
Yeah.
to you to decide whether that's going to be which one's quicker, which one's less risk to you, right? So
Yeah.
that's one,
Yeah.
empathize with your customer. And then second would be adjust, right? There's going to be a
Hmm.
lot of adjustments and innovations that need to be done very quickly in order for us to,
I
for
agree.
business to survive. The
I
other
agree.
choice is, there's always the other choice, which is close down and restart,
True.
right?
True.
There's also
Yeah.
that option. Close down.
Yeah.
I mean, cleanly, nicely, right? Just wrap it up. But people
Yeah.
understand, right, when things go too hard.
Yeah.
But then take a good look and view of the situation and see other opportunities that
Exactly.
open up and take that on. The choice to continue is not always it's not the only choice, right? It's not the only
Yeah.
dignified choice. The choice to close down because it no longer works is not necessarily bad. For example, I would
Yeah.
say if you used to run a massage spa in a hotel, like that's not gonna be there for some time. Unfortunately, it's
Yeah.
just
Exactly.
reality,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So
I mean,
you
look
might,
at the airlines, right? Like,
yeah,
yeah, no one's gonna fly.
I mean, there's gonna be very few, but it's gonna be very
Well,
few
yeah.
for quite some time, and it's gonna take time before it
Exactly.
goes back up. And
Yep.
so you you can downsize. I mean, that's an option, or you can close altogether and open up a new line of
Yeah.
business.
Yeah.
It's
Exactly.
don't suffer too much, I guess.
Yeah. And I think those are the hard decisions that people definitely have to think about and decide on. Like we're in some changes. That your business as it was known before will probably not be the same for a while. And the only way that you can survive this in a sense is you have to adjust and you have to adapt and respond to the market. You have to be able to respond to the market. And sometimes that response, as you mentioned, is really closing down and saying, hey, it's time to say close what we used to do, so that we can do something new, so that we can do something normal. Yeah.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Brian, hi, Brian.
That's a good point on handshake deals. Will contract signings be impersonal now? Do you have to disinfect the contract now? The only thing I can say, and this is probably just as an outsider in the Philippines, can we please stop signing every page of the contract now? Like, can we just simplify this and go digital? That would be the goal that I would have. Can we move? But definitely, yeah. Do you have to disinfect? It's like bring your own pen, bring your own alcohol spray. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I think
agree.
this
Not
is
everyone owns a huge table.
I think this is a major what do you call this? A major adjustment for lawyers, right? I think lawyers are
Yeah.
now getting a lot of pressure to how to take things digitally. And if there's
Yeah.
one thing, I think if there's one thing that COVID has done is accelerated digital adoption
I
in
agree.
every
I
aspect
agree.
of life. I'll tell you a story.
Yeah.
My mom, like, she always loves going to the market. Like, that's her thing. She loves going to the market. She wakes up early in the morning. By the time I wake up and get out, she's already, like, cleaning the fish, cleaning the meat, cleaning her vegetables, and she's already spent like 2 hours in the market. Like, went out at 4 a.m. something. COVID has disrupted that kind of behavior in her life, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
she still needs her avocados. So the now I wake up to a delivery person bringing in like a lot of fruits and vegetables, and you know where she
Yeah.
orders it? From Facebook. Like,
Yeah.
she's
Yeah.
she's
Exactly.
shopping on Facebook. She's like messaging people. She even writes down her shopping list on paper and takes a
Yeah.
picture of it and
And sends
sends it
it.
over to somebody, I don't know,
Yeah.
and that
Yeah.
person delivers. And then it's like my mom's lifestyle like has not been disrupted at all. And but instead
It's
of the
true.
store in the market that she used to give her money to, she's now giving it to somebody here who's like handling the deliveries. And so business has shifted. Demand has not, but business has shifted,
Right.
right? I think
Right.
the amount of money we
Exactly.
spend on market or like market goods, I would say still the same or even a little bit more because prices have gone up. Um,
Yeah.
but still, the demand is still there, and people are
Mhm.
still receiving business. And it's just
Yeah.
whether the question is whether it's the same people, and I doubt if it is, but it's the people who have gone digital. And so
Yeah.
I would say digital is like definitely going to be the new norm now, at least for us who've not been digitalized yet. I mean, if there's businesses who've not adopted digital, and this is now a huge pressure to go there, or else it's very, very difficult to survive.
Yeah. I mean, I can't disclose a lot, but I can say one thing that we're sort of awaiting a change in or a shift in is government procurement, right? So procurement still takes like a physical appearance at some of the agencies or departments to be able to do the bidding process. And so we're involved in a few projects for the government where we're bidding for those projects. And those projects have been on hold sort of indefinitely because number one, well, we're based in Cebu and they're in Manila, so we can't even get there. So even if we wanted to go, which I'm not recommending people to travel or anything like that, and we would take our own personal and team's security and safety into consideration before we ventured into this. But basically, like they're trying to figure out how do they reinvent the procurement process and make it something that is more digital, so they have these bidding processes and these things are written in law. And so it's a challenge in a lot of areas, from the government side all the way down to the vendors in Carbon. How do they reinvent themselves? How do they respond to this change? How do they, change the protocols, not only that they're doing, but say the laws of the land, where this process has been drafted and created, and over time it has worked, it served its purpose, but now it's not allowing them to do the deals or get the procurement that they need. So
Yeah.
yeah, there's some interesting changes in the pipeline, and of course, like it's not all going to happen overnight. The procurement law, that's not something that can just be rewritten in one go or two goes. It will take a lot of debate. So even things like Congress, right? How does Congress meet? These have been things that have been done in physical settings for the longest of time. And yeah, how does the legislative body really do things? How does the judicial system work? There's a ton of things, like from the government all the way down to individuals, that our life is being affected and changed. So yeah, keep adapting. Let's go
Yeah.
to the next question.
Yeah.
How
So next
should
question.
businesses
Go ahead.
Yeah. How should businesses rethink their talent strategy in this new normal? What do you think, Albert?
I think when I think of talent strategy, or the most sought out talent during this new normal, I would say adaptability and speed of change is in the top of my list. Like amongst other skills, right? For me, like
Yeah.
the quality that I need in a person right now and a talent right now is a person who is open to change, right? Because the situation is very fluid. In fact, the
Yep.
businesses that survive, or the businesses that even thrive during this time, are the businesses
Yeah.
who are able to change quickly, right?
Yeah. I
Quickly,
agree.
quickly is important. Like everybody can
Right.
change given a million years, right? But
Yeah.
you need to be able to change just like that, right? You need
Yeah.
to be able to change just like that. And the talent, the people that you need to hire are the
Yep.
people who are able to respond to change, right? Like, hey, today we're gonna do video call, and I need to speak to you and see you, and we're gonna do that. Okay.
Hmm.
That person's like, oh no,
Hmm.
I need to change my background, change my room, I need to fix my internet. Like, yeah, and they need to be able to do that quickly. They can't be the person to be like, can we just stick to the way we've always done, like just audio only, because I'm not prepared, right? I'm like, yeah, we can do
Yep.
that, but
Yep.
that's gonna be difficult, right? Like we
Yeah.
need to be able to change quickly and adapt quickly in this kind of environment, and be able to
Yeah.
adapt to the demands of the market, or the demands of the customers, demands of the business, demands of operations that have changed. Be able to throw old things, previous things, you know, out, right, and move on.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's interesting, right? So my perspective on this is probably closer to being like a dad and in the environment that I'm in. And I remember a few months, I would say maybe within the last 6 months, there was this video that went viral of a dad who was on television and he was doing the interview. And then,
Yes.
he's in this room, and then his kid opens the door and like sneaks in. And then, his partner, I would assume spouse or something, she like comes in and she sees what's happening, and then she tries to like dart in and grab the child, and then they go out. And this became something that, I mean, obviously, like, it was really funny at the time. And now that's like the reality that people with parents just face. Like, that is the new normal, right? So even the team, as we were talking about doing this session, they were like, okay, yeah, so we'll be distraction free. And I was like, we'll try our best, right? Because at any moment, a 2-year-old or an 8-year-old or a screaming baby could just come down into this room with me, and I will have to deal with that situation, right? Like, that is just the new normal. And so I agree that, as I think about talent, you also have to think about what type of adaptability do they have as a person. And also, one thing that I would add that I've been looking at and thinking about, and this is probably from my own life and my own situation, is how can they work asynchronously, right? Like, it's very easy to kind of get things done when you're in sync, or when you're able to just bounce ideas off, right? Have a conversation like this. But in the new normal, they might be on another side of the world, right? Like, there's an opportunity that your talent actually may not be here in Cebu with us. They may not be in the city that you're in. They may be residing in a whole nother time zone. And so the way that they work and how they communicate, especially with this idea of asynchronization, or working not in the same time zone at the same time, and directly communicating things, is very important to me and to our company, but I would say in general to a lot of different companies. Because as you mentioned, this idea of the industrial factory, where there's like factory workers, and it's like, okay, one person does this and then the next person does this sequential type of work is very much being changed and disrupted, and we have to adapt to that new normal. And so, I think it's very interesting. I would just bring up one other topic before, say, we go on to other things in the next question. Even recruitment is different now. So traditionally, at SIM, the way that we recruited talent was Albert would go to schools and do technical speeches, or basically like, he would do technical demos and workshops and things like that. And so we would then be able to connect with students. They would get excited. They would usually join us as interns. We would do a lot of internship tours where schools from around the region would come into Cebu. They would visit SIMF. We would give them the tour of the office. We would pack like 200 people into our office. And our programmers kind of felt like, I don't know, zoo animals or something. They're sitting there coding, and there's just this group of interns behind them. Certain team members played like K-pop on their screens just to, troll. But anyway, all that to be said, none of that is happening right now. These schools aren't really even in session. They're not having any sort of conferences where we would go and speak. We're not having an office, period. But we are also not bringing in 200 to 300 people at one time to show them around what we're doing. And so this has turned our recruitment strategy kind of all, up on its end. Like, where do we find talent? And so, Albert, how would you advise companies look for talent? Like, if they need talent, where should they be looking, and what can they do?
Yeah, so I think for us, the demand is still there. People still want to work, right? People still want to learn. People still want to intern. Students still want to progress in their careers. But demand is still there. Channels, however, channels have changed. So we can no longer go and market ourselves physically in an event. But now we can do this online. So something like this that we're doing, we're now doing it online. So we have to shift our channel to digital channel. And then another channel has changed is that we can no longer have a physical presence, right, in an office. So how do we provide that kind of experience to an intern? Well, now they're just part of a remote team, right? So what we have to do is shift that digitally as well, which we've done not just for interns, but we've done for our whole team. And what we've done is we've taken something called specifically we have something called Discord. I don't know if you know Discord. It's a game chat app with audio. Like gamers, they are in a game, they're hunting down, doing their mission, and then they're talking to teammates online, right, through this thing called Discord, right? And what we've done is that's what we've used. We're not gaming, we're doing work, but we're coordinating work audio based, right? And if we need to share each other's screens, we can do that. We live stream our screen as if you know it's originally meant for gaming, where you live stream your game as you're playing, right?
Yeah, and people watch and comment.
Right.
And talk.
Instead, we live stream our screen and say, okay, this is where my program is hanging. Can you help me out? And then other people can speak and be and watch and okay, I think on line number 25 there's an issue there, right? And so we bring in the interns and also even our own employers into this virtual office that we have. We also have a Minecraft server. I don't know if you know Minecraft. It's like a game where you go around and you can see people and create your own world. And what we've done is some of our teammates have built the office, a replica of the
recreated the office.
Except that because there's no boundaries in the digital world of Minecraft, it looks infinitely better, right? I would say it's even better looking than Google's office, because our team is very creative, and without the limit of a budget, they can just go crazy. So we have a really nice office in Minecraft, and that's where we meet. We're meeting there tonight again for our evening sync, and we have this sync where we just talk together all on audio. We have a team of around 35 to 40 people, and we just talk there and get together there. So the demand hasn't changed, but we just have to divert our channels for marketing and both and also our fulfillment and delivery. And I think we've accepted new people recently, and I'm now getting inquiries to take in a few more other people. And to be honest, I think it's easier because I don't have to go now to a school and do talks on stage, which is fun, by the way, but it's time consuming. Now, with shifting to digital channel, it's not as difficult anymore. I mean, not as time consuming for me personally. So that's
I agree. I would also just add one kind of point on this is that a lot of people have been affected, right? Let's be honest, a lot of people have lost their jobs. And so the idea, if you're in a position to hire, I would say that, from an economic standpoint, that's probably one of the most impactful things that you could do for someone right now, not just on a personal level, but on a societal level. Because that will trigger other economic activity that will help us recover, that will help us get back on our feet. And so Um, if you're looking for talent now, look, we're more in the digital space, so I'm speaking to what I'm familiar with. I know that there are tons of people out there who have lost their jobs, right? Like even startups, the big startups in the US, the unicorns, like Airbnb, have downsized their teams. They have reduced a lot of teams. There are amazing team members who are available right now. You can just look around, right? Like there's new networks that are coming out. I won't mention any of them, but there's also like old areas like LinkedIn or things like that. But I mean, these social channels can basically help you in the recruitment strategy as you move forward into the new normal. So,
All right,
okay,
there's a question here.
there's a question. Yeah, you want to read it?
I'll read it out. So, hi guys, how would you go about convincing a stakeholder that remote work is also a thing for sales and marketing, not just for developers, especially with digital marketing and social media marketing?
Hmm. I guess the way that I would think about this is like let the data speak for itself. So I would look for what's the evidence that digital is the new normal, and there's tons of evidence out there, right? Like the physical spaces, sales are down, marketing is down, having in-person meetings, like that is not happening. But the digital world, like deals are still happening, right? Business isn't necessarily all shutting down in response to this situation. And so I think there's a lot of opportunity out there, and I would look for data that supports these points. Now, if like let's be honest though, if you're in say the condo sales and marketing space, it's going to be a pretty big challenge, right? Like you could still do virtual tours, you could do things like that. So it does depend somewhat what industry you're talking about. But I would definitely say that you could convince a stakeholder by just showing them how this is the new normal. This is how other companies are responding, and here's data to support it. And this will help us become more adaptable. This will help us get back on our feet, help us recover, or help us continue to make money and succeed. So I think that's the best way to go after a stakeholder from my perspective. What are your thoughts, Albert?
Yeah, I mean, I'm aligned with you, right? It's basically showing them the data. I think another way of saying that exactly is tell them stories, right?
Yeah.
Chase the stories that support your case and share the stories. For example, there's one story I know. This friend of ours, they're called Kit's Kitchen, right? They sell
Yeah.
really delicious gluten-free cakes and
Big
vegan
fan.
cakes,
Big fan.
and so yeah, and they sell in Rustans,
Yep.
and they also had like a branch in Ayala Central Block in the mall, and they
Yeah.
sell in the malls, and they have decent sales, and that's okay. And but when
Yeah.
COVID struck, you would think like, oh no, like
Yep.
their
Sales are gone.
sales are like gone because the malls are closed, and it's very difficult to operate. And yeah, their channel for fulfilling the customers demand has disappeared. However, they were able to quickly transition to
Hmm.
like online and
Yeah.
delivery. And at first they even didn't do delivery. They just said like just pick it up, right? And they live really far, right? And now they also do
Yeah.
delivery via I think Lala Move or something. But
Yeah.
just pick it up. And just like that, sales has gone up many times over, right?
Yeah. That's good.
I mean,
Yeah.
even more
We're
than what they
we're
make.
part of their customer base, but definitely, like we've
Yeah,
ordered from them countless times during this crisis.
yeah, and you would think it's actually impractical, right? Because you live in another mountain, and they have their base in another mountain, and
Yeah.
you have to cross the valley in between to, I guess, get
Yeah.
from point A to point B. But
Yep.
somehow the demand is still there. And as
Exactly.
long as you're able to reach your customer, and in this case, it's online channel, and then figure out
Yeah.
the logistics of delivery or pickup, they are making more sales now. So
Yeah.
I would pick up these kinds of stories. I would look for
Exactly.
these stories, get like three or more other stories, and then also get
Hmm.
the horror stories. Right? Get the opposite.
Yeah. It's true. It's
The
true.
horror stories. Like look for examples of the people or the businesses that didn't adjust their sales
Yeah.
and marketing, and were very stubborn in that sense, and then show them what happened, and it didn't work
Yeah.
out for these ones. So source of the stories and present it, but you need to show them that because
Hmm.
it's not necessarily that the stakeholders are stubborn. It's maybe they are missing that side of the picture. Maybe they're not seeing what you're
Yep.
seeing, and so it's up to
Exactly.
you to be able to show that to them.
Yep. I agree. I agree. Okay, let's go to the next question. So, what steps can businesses take to mitigate the risks of their companies born out of COVID-19? Hmm. I'll let you start.
What steps? Dude, there's a lot of steps, right?
Yeah.
This is not like, what happened with COVID is not like, oh, Apple launched the iPhone and, people can now have a touch screen, right? Like, it's not like one thing changed, a million
Yeah.
things changed, right? Like, so many things changed. You can't even do a handshake anymore, right? You can't sit together anymore. You have to have like 6 feet apart, distance from other people when you're working. Your customers, when you approach them, they have to be like, you can't crowd them into a place anymore. You have to like limit their entry. You have to make sure enforce
Yeah.
social distancing. You have to keep them the hygiene there if you're doing retail, right?
Yeah.
Changes in the supply chains. Most of the supply chains are also struggling.
Yeah.
Supply chain providers are struggling because of this. You can't have workers work very close proximity together anymore. So there's so many things. I think at the most basic thing, I would hire talent, or I would keep the talent that is quick and adaptable to change. And second,
I agree.
I think of, you know analytics. Like, you need to be able to analyze the situation, right? And you have to be able to have a fluid plan where you plan for something, and then when the things change or when you observe a change, then you're able to quickly plan ahead to be able
Mm.
to mitigate that change, and at the same time, um, also have the intelligence or the brain, I would say, to quickly change the plan if it's not working, or adjust to the circumstances in the situation, right?
Yeah.
Like, I
Yeah.
would say that you'd have to have those kinds of people in place, and you have to. There's no like, we do the plan and you do this and you just follow it to the letter,
I
and
agree.
you'll be
Yeah.
fine, right? We
I
are not
agree.
that kind of world. We are in uncharted territory here, right? Yes, a
Absolutely.
pandemic has
Absolutely.
happened a century ago, but right, like, the situation is very, very, very different now. Like, yes, it's still a
Yeah.
pandemic,
Yeah.
but very, very different, and the behaviors of
Yeah.
people are very, very different. So you need to
I
be able
agree.
to respond to that change quickly. So if you want to talk about what steps, I wouldn't say what steps, but rather, you have to be, you yourself and your team have to have this mindset of quickly adapting to change and observing the situation and responding quickly to that.
Yeah. I agree. I think in addition to that, and just building on that, I think the best risk mitigation strategy that I would advise you as a customer right now, or as a business, is don't hold on to like the news of today. Don't get stuck in like, well, this is our strategy. This is what we're going to do. You have to be able to adapt, and I think that is the best strategy. So a good example. I see this. I won't talk about where I see this, but I will say that I see this is that in the Philippines right now, there are different levels of quarantine, right? There's this GCQ, general quarantine, general community quarantine. There's MECQ, there's ECQ, there's like all these different levels. And the general sense that I have in watching people respond to it is they're all kind of waiting for it to like change. And then once it changes, they're like, okay, then once this, we'll do that. And I feel that that's actually a mistake because you're getting stuck in like, well, when it's GCQ, then I'll do this. You just don't know what's going to happen. Like, it may be GCQ for the next month. It may not be. So what you have to do is you have to make a strategy or a plan that is more malleable, or basically like flexible to the environment, because we don't know. General quarantine may come into place, and then it may spike the number of cases, and then we may go back to a more strict quarantine model or schedule. And so we just don't know. And so I think what's so important for you and your team from a risk and strategy perspective is, don't think about your strategy as something that you're setting and that it's going to be fixed for the rest of the year. It's something that you're going to set and you're going to try, and then you're going to change it based on what happens and how reality reacts to your strategy. So yeah, that would be my strategy to mitigate risk.
And this is where I think, getting the people with the right mindset and orienting the people that there's going to be a lot of change ahead is really, really critical.
Yep,
You need to
I
prepare your
agree.
people to that. Hey, our plan is going to change a lot of times, and
I
you need
agree.
to prepare to be flexible to that, because the things are
I
going to
agree.
change many times over the course of this year, over the next year,
I
because
agree.
you can't have like every time you change your plan and then your people are like, oh, this is so, we're so,
Okay.
I know the term in Bisaya is "way claro," but what is it in English, right? Like "way claro." What?
Unclear,
Yeah,
or like
the plan is so
constantly changing.
unclear. The plan is
Yeah,
so, it changes all the
yeah,
time.
so
This is so
vague. Yeah,
vague, right? But you have to prepare them ahead that the nature of the situation demands
yeah,
a plan that will change given the
yeah,
situation, right?
yeah. I think just one other quick like story from what we've seen. So my wife is in healthcare, and they have this principle in healthcare called universal precaution, right? And in theory, everyone should be practicing this way, right? Like everyone should be living with universal precaution. And the way that I could best describe universal precaution in the current situation is that you assume that everyone has COVID-19, and you would therefore universally treat everyone with the same like social distancing, with the same protection of yourself, the same protection of themselves, and isolation and different things. Now, no one has really practiced universal precaution very well. Otherwise, we wouldn't have so many infections. And especially like medical workers, it's a huge challenge to practice universal precaution because it's just so hard, right? Like you have to really ensure that you're changing equipment, you're changing masks, your team has all of the supplies they need. It's a lot of money to invest in this. Universal precaution is a great idealistic target. However, that being said, I think one thing that's super important about the way that you have a mindset as you go for business is you have to be thinking about the market that way. You just don't know what might change next week. And so you have to have this mindset that you're universally adaptable, right? It's not really a precaution because it's a little different. We're not talking about medicine, but you have to be universally adaptable. That if suddenly business starts going this direction, you can adapt and you can universally adapt to that. If suddenly it goes another direction, even after going this direction, you adapt and you shift to that. So I think that it's very important to just, foster these mindsets. And as a leader, it's very hard, but it's something that you just have to establish within yourself. So yeah,
I like
let's
that.
move on to the next question.
Okay. So, so
Number
let me,
five, what
yeah, let
other
me, yeah.
opportunities are now existing for businesses born out of this situation? What other opportunities? Oh man, there's so many. So I'm trying to focus on maybe some very clear ones. I think like food delivery, right? Like food delivery services is a huge new opportunity because people still want to eat, they still need to eat. So I think like your mom's example of how she gets her groceries, even personally here, like ordering food, the way that I order food is very different than it was before. One of the conversations my wife and I had is that we'll probably never go to a supermarket again. I mean, like it's not that we don't like the things that we could do there, but if we can just order food, sorry to knock on this startup, but man, unfortunately, Honest Bee didn't make it. If they had been around, their sales would have just been off the hook right now because, yeah, I mean, people can't go to the supermarket or they don't want to go to the supermarket.
Dave, you're on
So
mute.
I think that's one huge opportunity that I've seen develop in the current marketplace. So like food delivery, even as you mentioned, the restaurants delivering steak rather than cooked. It's just for you to prepare with the instructions. Coffee shops, like I'm ordering my coffee now. I'm more of like brew it myself guy, but I can get nice beans. I can get things that I want. I order online and then they deliver it. It's great. So food delivery would be one that I see a huge opportunity that's been born out of this situation. What about you, Albert?
I mean, for me, I don't have anything specific because again, there's so many opportunities. I would just say anything that delivers to the home, right? Like
Yeah.
entertainment. You used to go out to watch the movies. Nope, bring it to the home. You have Netflix.
Yep.
Gyms. You
Yep.
used to go to the gym to work out. Nope.
Nope.
Now like you have like workout instructors in on online. Like probably like last
Yeah.
night, my wife and my sisters were or working out in the sala, like in the living
Yeah.
room, and like from the watching the iPad. So that's also
Yeah.
anything that brings. My mom is not grocery. What do you call that? Market shopping, um,
Yeah.
in via Facebook. So
Yeah.
anything that brings what used to be outside straight to your doorstep, um,
Yeah.
is an opportunity there.
I agree. Yeah. And I mean, I would just say, right, like, this is a tough situation. Like, don't mistake my thoughts or my approach. This is a really really hard situation, and I am acutely aware that we are very fortunate, to be in this state. But I would also say there are tons of opportunities for businesses to be born, to thrive, and to succeed and adapt through this situation. Now, it's not to say that it won't be hard. It's not to say that it won't be a challenge. It's not to say that you won't have to figure out how to do things differently and adapt, but there are opportunities here. And yes, I'm more of an optimistic person, right? Like, I see the glass as half full, but I would just say that I think as you look out at the situation, try to identify what are the needs that you have that aren't being met in the current situation. So what opportunities do you really see and do you experience? And take those ideas and go validate it with people. Go talk to your friends or your barcada, as you would say here. Go talk to people. Like, do they have the same wants and needs, right? Like, I mean, even we were joking about it earlier, but like massage, right? How can someone figure out how to enable massage? There's probably an opportunity there. I don't know what it is because, again, yes, again with the massage, Bri, because I know you were going to say that. But there are opportunities here. There are opportunities in this market. You just have to be able to figure it out.
All right, let me ask the last two questions. How about
Okay.
startups? How is pandemic affecting them? And is this a good time to start a startup?
That's good. Definitely. A lot of startups in the US, right? Like the who's who list of startups have been greatly affected. Some of the bigger companies, I think Twitter, they're remote working now, and they will likely not return to a physical office. I think some of the others, I haven't kept track on the big companies or the big startups that we would say. A lot of startups have actually had to do layoffs. So Airbnb is one of the biggest ones that's had to go through this, and there are countless others that have gone through this. Look, entire industries have sort of come to a stop, right? And tourism is one of the biggest ones, right? Like travel and tourism is at a standstill, and it's going to be that way, I would say, for a long haul. So the idea of flying somewhere, renting an Airbnb, going to a hotel, even these things are just not going to happen in the near term future until we sort of figure out the vaccines and until safety precautions have been put into place, right? Like, this is not going to happen. And so, yeah, whole industries have been affected. So these are not just the small startups, like people struggling in their garages or from home, or even the small seed rounds. Definitely, they've been affected. On the flip side of that, a lot of startups have seized this opportunity to do really good things and to have social impact, to enable people to succeed, right? Like Shopify. Shopify has seen huge growth in the e-commerce space through this, and they've opened up. I think they've extended like the free trial period of Shopify to be something like 3 months now, to just enable people to say convert their business from a physical retail to a digital retail. And so there's a ton of growth, as well as hard times in almost every business sector that I see. So startups have been affected. Is this a good time to start a startup? I personally, again, I'm an optimist. I think if you see a good opportunity and you see a need that isn't being fulfilled, absolutely, this is a great time to start it. I think if it requires like a physical location and people doing things in close proximity to each other, it would be a very big challenge to start something right now. But if it could be done remotely or it could be done digitally, I think this is a great time to start a company.
Yeah, I agree. Because, like as I mentioned a while ago, like the world has changed drastically, and because the world has changed drastically, you now have a whole bunch of new problems that the world is facing,
Yep.
and problems are there's opportunity, right? So
Yep.
I mean,
Yep.
as a startup, you. I mean, not as a startup, but you can create a startup to be able to try to, to address these problems, these new problems, and so there's now a bigger, I would say, blue ocean now of new problems that have come up, and new and did I disappear there for a moment? There's a new, yeah,
Yeah,
like
you did.
technology. There's a startup waiting for technology that solves this problem that I don't get cut off while I'm talking, right? Right?
Exactly.
I mean, that's a problem.
Better internet,
We're
better
willing to
internet.
pay for better internet. So
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, like, I'll just be honest. I've been chasing down like internet connections every day because I'm desperate for a better connection in my house, and they're not doing a great job fulfilling my need. So yeah, I'm
and
desperate.
Dave, I am thinking also like there's a huge problem and opportunity with homeschooling right now.
Oh man, don't get me started on that. But yeah, totally, totally. And I mean, look, like my son is on the spectrum of autism, and so even like I would say special needs. Like, how do you do digital learning for children with special needs? There's a ton of opportunities there. Like, look, Zoom is great and has gotten us this far, but there's only so far you can go with just like having a video conference and trying to run school that way. Now, what's the new normal, right? Universities are universities going to go back to the way that they were before? You know, maybe someday, but right now they're not. And so, what does digital education and homeschooling look like?
Yeah.
Huge opportunities. Huge opportunities.
Yeah. I mean, it's so many opportunity actually. We've got our hands full. The tech industry, I would say, we've been able to adjust very quickly, right? We've been able to adjust
Yeah.
very quickly. Digital is where we sort of that's our world. So I would say we're one of the lucky ones um, to sort of like thrive in this crisis, which has been very difficult for a lot of people, including our clients. Like we have clients that are
Yeah.
restaurants, tourism, um,
Yeah.
like car rentals, and those have been very difficult, and we've even travel. So yeah,
Yeah.
um let's we have a minute, Dave, so let's wrap this up.
Yeah.
And what role does technology play in this new normal for businesses, government, educational institutions, and more? So what can we do, or what does technology do?
Yeah, obviously, like I've committed my life to technology, right? And I think the interesting thing about technology and um, say not to differ from others is that technology is constantly changing, right? Like we're always disrupting, we're having new things roll out, we're adapting. So the programming languages that I learned when I was in high school are irrelevant now. The programming languages that I learned in college, I never used. Even the ones that I used when I first started actually working, I don't use anymore. Now, it's not to say that they're bad languages, but the knowledge of how to program has carried me through this life. And the knowledge of technology is something that is disrupting these different sectors. Now, how can technology specifically do it? We live in a very interesting time where I would say there's still this gap between what we can do in the physical world and what we can do in a technical or technology driven world. So even for example, like Minecraft, right? Like our team, they're amazing, they're artists and they rebuilt the office and it looks cooler than our actual office ever did or ever could be. But it's still different. There's still this gap between like going to our physical office and going onto the Minecraft server and walking around this office and interacting with each other. So, what I mainly see technology doing right now or being very useful is trying to close that gap and bring things like how might virtual reality or augmented reality, how might education, what something that was very physical before, how might we close the gap to what technology can actually do and make the experience, which again, I think that's the key, make the experience something that is actually better than before. So that would be, say, like where I, from a big overarching view, see technology having a capability is how might it close that gap experientially, making the new normal better than the old normal.
Yeah, cool. So, I mean, from my side, I think of digital technology. Whenever you ask me technology, I think of digital technology. So, for example, I'm gonna zoom in and education, right? For a long time, our education technology is through something called books, right? And delivery system is, I mean, that's technology. Paper
Well,
is technology, right? It was built
I think I have a few. There's a
technology.
few over there. Yeah.
And so, but then we move on to digital technology. I remember my sister. My sister's a doctor, and we just carried out her books as we were cleaning the house, and
Yeah.
it was pretty heavy. It was, I would
Yeah.
say
Yeah.
it took I would
Dude,
say,
those medical books, they're serious. They're,
yeah.
my wife has a few of them. Yeah.
Now everything is in the iPad, right? So
It's true. It's
it
true.
experiences the digital technology has changed the experience so much, and I think that's the way we should view
Yeah.
technology or digital technology, right? Like we look at something in the real world, we look at something
Yeah.
in real life, we look at a person's problem, and then we ask that person, all right, what is the problems that this person is facing, and how can we create technology to make the experience better, right? How can we make it
Yeah.
so that the experience of this person is is that their problems are met, right? And that goes from online learning to just to, oh, there's that's one book, that's one
Yeah.
topic.
This is one. One.
Yeah, and it's all in the iPad now, right? And so how do you do
Yeah.
that with your
My,
restaurant? How do you do that with your training, with your sports
yeah.
training? How do you do that with your physical training, your gym training? You move it from a physical
Yeah.
to digital. How about your dance,
Exactly.
your even your medical training, right? Like my sister, they are doing their reviews, their medical lessons online and Facebook Live, and that one hasn't worked so well
Yeah.
based on her
Yeah.
feedback. But you need to innovate the technology there so that the experience is much better. All right.
Exactly.
So yeah, to wrap things up, I'm just gonna say hello. We're from Simf, and we're thankful. We're thankful that you
Yeah.
joined us for this Dave and
Definitely.
Albert show, first one ever remote from home. Yeah,
Yeah. I would just say, we're thankful for just, we're thankful for this opportunity to kind of come into your screen and be with you. If you have questions that you felt like we didn't answer, feel free to comment below, whatever channel or platform you're watching or interacting with us on. Feel free to comment below. You can always visit our website, drop us a line or an email, info@simf.co. Yes, like, look, we're in the technical and technology business. So we're very fortunate. If you have ideas, if you want to talk more about those things, we'd love to talk with you. Um,
yeah,
we're in the business of trying to help businesses succeed. And so our goal with this is not to say, sell you anything. We don't have the one size fits all solution just ready to go, but we would love to have a conversation with you and help you figure out how you might adapt and what that looks like. Now, if you've been affected by this situation, we'd love to also just connect with you and see how we can help. Our team, Albert's family, has been very affected by this situation, so we understand and we have empathy as you go through life. We hope that you're all going to stay safe. We want to get through this together. We want to build a better world, and so these are just things that we, as founders of Sense, have been passionate about. So yeah, thank you for joining us today. We're really happy to just be able to interact. It's great to catch up with Albert. It's actually been a long time since we actually had a Dave and Albert type of call and session. So this has been a lot of fun, and thank you for joining us today.
thank you guys. I mean, if you're wondering specifically what do we actually do, we basically build websites, mobile apps, internal digital systems. At the end of the day, we solve problems and create businesses using technology. So that's what we're really
Yeah,
passionate about. So if that's something that you'd like, some help with, we'd love to help. Reach out to us. All right,
Yep.
that's it. Bye bye.
All right. Bye, guys. Stay safe.